Myanmar's $4 billion mega ghost city. Ever wondered about a city in Southeast Asia that's so mysterious it makes you question if it's real? Join us on a journey into Nay Pyi Da, Myanmar's capital, where every corner hides a strange secret. As we uncover more, you'll be surprised at just how peculiar the city is. The capital of Myanmar, a country that is part of Southeast Asia, is Nay Pyi Da. It is formerly Burma, but the name was changed by a military junta during the 1960s. The city is large, some 7,000 square kilometers, far larger than London or New York. Yet it differs significantly from other large cities since, despite its huge size, it is empty. Visualize a city where roads are as wide as 20 lanes, but almost no car movement. The parks, the malls, golf course, zoo, and even the famous Santi Pagoda are present, but they look deserted. Nay Pyi Da has airports and five-star hotels, but they are mostly empty with few people around. Despite its appearance of a ghost town, the city is maintained by many workers who ensure that it remains clean and tidy. As of 2015, there were only about 40,000 people in Nay Pyi Da, so it appeared as if the city was a ghost town. After that, the population has increased slightly, but it's still a mysterious and weird capital city. Nay Pyi Da is an odd city in Myanmar. It has a large parliament building surrounded by soldiers, but few people. There are whispers of underground tunnels in the city. The city has different zones, like a ministry zone, a military zone, hotel zone, and more. In the residential zone, houses have colored roofs based on people's jobs. Blue roofs for health workers, green for agriculture. But most homes are empty. The city is messy and confusing, like a random maze. Roads are strange, with a 20-lane highway that doesn't make sense. Roundabouts are big and weird. It's lucky there aren't many cars. Some say the city's planning is for defense or secrecy. The government's reasons are not clear. In recent years, there have been political issues in Myanmar, but Nay Pyi Da stays quiet and untouched, unlike the busy city of Yangon. I find it strange. A 90-degree turn on a 16-lane highway doesn't sound safe. Further east, there's another huge 16-lane highway, looking like an airplane runway, oddly placed between a military base and a military zone. Some roads are risky, like the infamous Death Highway, known for fatal accidents since 2010. A sign in English adds an eerie touch. Nay Pyi Da has more oddities, like the Santi Pagoda, a replica from Yangon. Despite being a Buddhist monument, only politicians and military leaders were allowed at its opening. Myanmar's capital is full of puzzling things. So why was Nay Pyi Da built in the first place? Years ago, a controversial military dictatorship known for its violence and unpopularity took control in the 1960s through a brutal coup in Myanmar. At Yangon University, students protested and the regime responded harshly, deploying soldiers, resulting in an unknown number of student deaths. They avoided elections until 1990, and when held, they disregarded the results, arresting opposition politicians. This brutal regime, responsible for such actions, decided to build Nay Pyi Da. The exact construction start date is unknown, kept as a military secret, but satellite images suggest it began around 2002. The city, unveiled 3 years later, cost a staggering $4 billion, quite a sum for a country with a GDP less than $10 billion at the time. Despite the country's needs, the regime seemed indifferent to better ways of spending the money, displaying a lack of concern for the impoverished parts of Myanmar, lacking in education and health care. The city has turned into a strange, deserted megacity, and it wasn't just a significant investment, but also a seemingly wasteful one. This raises the question, what if a government intentionally wanted a deserted megacity? Have you found the story strange already? Brace yourself, because it's about to get even more peculiar. Yangon, a seaside city, served as the capital of Myanmar before Nay Pyi Da. With about 7 million residents, this metropolis was first designated as the nation's capital in 1852, while Myanmar was still a part of the British Empire. After more than 150 years, Yangon was deemed unfit for use by the regime in Myanmar. This stated explanation was straightforward. Yangon's population was outpacing its facilities, resulting in overcrowding. The dictatorship hoped to rebuild itself in a completely new metropolis with greater room and superior urban design. But did the military really build Nay Pyi Da for the declared reason? Many individuals don't believe that. They claim that the truth is far stranger. Experts generally believe that the administration was concerned about the swollen population of Yangon. The administration realized it would be difficult to repel such a large-scale uprising in the city if it occurred. There were other forms of demonstrations that Yangon University had to deal with besides student protests, and it seemed only a matter of time until one of these protests turned into something more significant. Rumor has it that the leadership was also concerned about an American naval invasion from the Bay of Bengal. Though unlikely, this attack was not totally implausible. The U.S. government did not approve of the dictatorship and continued to refer to the nation as Burma in official publications. They had also interfered in Southeast Asia in the past, most notably in Vietnam, and refused to recognize the new name Myanmar. Thus, the military government chose to relocate the nation's capital to a tranquil area inland. This place would be far less susceptible to public demonstrations and far more difficult for the U.S. to strike. They placed their city among the natural defensive barriers created by the Bago-Yoma and Shan-Yoma mountain systems. They constructed a strongly guarded government facility deep within the city, replete with troops, fencing, and some sort of motor river. Not to mention those covert underground tunnels. And perhaps, just possibly, they purposefully left the majority of the city largely deserted. There was far less likelihood of a public revolt endangering the regime's position when no one was present. The broad roadways would make it simple for the army to repel any demonstrations, even if the city gradually filled up, and the population has been increasing extremely slowly. There are many who believe that the 20-lane roads are actually covert military runways. This means that, unlike the narrow streets of Yangon, a jet could land in any part of the city and be prepared to repel violent protests. There are still more theories. Perhaps the purpose of the city's disorienting layout is to make it more difficult for demonstrators to get around. Perhaps this meticulous maintenance of the streets deters demonstrators from erecting barricades. Perhaps the Death Highway stretching from Yangon to Naypyidaw was built as a premeditated protective mechanism. The entire city is a massive military fortification rather than a true city. To emphasize, the military regime in Myanmar has never admitted any of this. Perhaps their relocation was motivated by administrative concerns rather than a desire to avoid the traffic on Yangon's congested streets, as the official explanation claims. However, this odd city couldn't possibly have such a straightforward explanation, can it? The government consented to hold more democratic elections in 2015. They accepted the election results this time, despite the fact that they lost once more. The situation in Myanmar appeared to improve for a while. However, the military carried out a second coup in 2021, taking over and plunging the nation into anarchy. Since then, both sides have been engaged in fighting in a civil war. However, the most populous region in the nation, Yangon, is at the core of this dispute. That's where the conflicts are happening. That's where people are demonstrating. In the meantime, the military commanders are safely hidden away from all the excitement in Naypyidaw, which sits unoccupied and unperturbed in the middle of the nation. A fortuitous event? Perhaps. Or a stronghold? Who knows? Please share your thoughts on the construction of this city in the comments section below. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you in the next video.